And it is extraordinary. There are three issues that I get asked most frequently in Montpelier. Education and taxes tops affordability is by far the more worrisome thing that we all face. I am concerned that there will not be progress in time to meet the end of this session or this year's taxes. And I'm telling you, there is a lot of hesitance in Montpelier on the part of groups and lobbyists and others, almost a resistance to changing the way we do this funding. And I would like to be surprised by the end of the session, but I will tell you, as the governor has told the legislature, I will not vote for an education budget that does not include funding reform, because we cannot afford it going forward. There are some bills that have been introduced to raise more revenue for education, and that is not a bad idea. But I have not in half a century noticed an instance in which raising more money led to less government spending for very long. There are deeper issues. Health insurance is one of the drivers. Health insurance is driving our education costs almost as much as anything else. Your premiums and mine, because we are in Vermont as a market, our premiums are based on an average for healthcare in the state. And I don't mind calling out the UVM Health Network as being the driver of those high costs. An MRI in Southern Vermont costs about $1,800. An MRI in Burlington costs $6,500. The facilities charge for a typical childbirth in Southern Vermont, the facilities charge is about $1,700. And in Burlington, where UVM Healthcare owns all three hospitals, is $17,000. Now, this is part of the average that your premiums and mine are based on. It's a lot more complex than that. Doing something about it is layer upon layer upon layer of business law. And it is a business question that is affecting our healthcare. I would not be at all opposed to see some kind of antitrust effort to deal with the fact that they own all three major hospitals in Chittenden County and they can charge what they want or just not accept the insurance. That is an oversimplification, but that is sort of where it is. Housing has started to inch forward. Last year, we put together a housing bill that provided for a way for municipalities to fund the infrastructure they need, the sewers, roads, sidewalks, and all of these things. And they call it the CHIP program. It's been launched. It is great for Williston, White River, Brattleboro, Rutland. It is enormously complex, however, when it comes to communities. So the chair of the Housing Committee, Mark Mahaly, and myself have co-authored a rural housing finance bill. This is for towns of less than 5,000. It is financing that is simpler, that is shorter, and it involves a program to bulk purchase offsite manufactured homes, because that is how we get a better price on the purchase of the homes, with the intent of passing those savings on to small developers in small communities who don't need 30 of them. 2 here, 3 there, 5 there. And the state backs that. We're not buying them. The state is not buying them. We're not buying free houses. We're just backing the purchase, and the developers will pick it up at a lower cost. Land use is going to be a problem for rural Vermont. Land Use Reform Act 181, which was vetoed by the governor, was not passed or signed into law. Act 181 has good elements and it has some problematic elements, and some of them you need to know are coming down the pike very fast, as are some of the public hearings. You've heard people talking about tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 mapping, future land use maps, and this has been discussed for a while. I will tell you, these are village centers. And they've exempted village centers where the infrastructure is from Act 250. Briefly, not quite long enough for a small developer in a small community to do all of the work that goes into applying beforehand. And they're not going to do it if they don't know they can get over the finish line. So the timelines have got to be dealt with, and whether or not that's going to be blockaded remains to be seen. But that's very real if we want to get something done in our local small towns. Tier 2 is the same as before, and that's where Act 250 kicks in depending on the size of the development, 10 lots or more. That's the same. Nothing's been reformed about the Act 250 process, just where it applies. Tier 3 is sensitive ecological areas. The Land Use Review Board is doing really good focusing that down and being very specific about where the headwaters are and where the A&R has dealt with mapping wetlands and mostly slopes and places you're not inclined to build anyways. Anything rare in Vermont, and understand that term, it may be 2 or 3 on your lot and may be plastered all over Connecticut, but if it's rare in Vermont, you may not be able to get a permit, or you may have to modify your permit to build. Rare in Vermont includes species and plants that are not shown on the maps. If you call them up online, they're not showing them in order to protect those species. But I will call out, and I'm not making this up, if you haven't read it in the newspaper, a bill to reintroduce the mountain lion to Vermont. I'm not making that up. Phenomenal creatures. They are remarkable animals. But they will lock up a lot. And the only thing that makes sense to me, to the push that is happening to bring them back, is to do exactly that. The introduction of the mountain lion is a game to tie up land, yours. Let me explain a little more about Act 250 reform. If you look on the maps, and I have a couple there, I don't have a color copier, so fancy, but I will leave them out here in the hall. One shows the wildlife corridors where you can't build along the road because there's trees on both sides and major habitat on both sides, and animals need to go back and forth, right? It's a good concept. It's not a bad. I understand it. I don't always understand why one section of road is in that and another section isn't. What's problematic is the next map that's next to it, just to show the contrast, that it's called the rule, which means if you build a road longer than 800 feet to get to your build site, and in Vermont, you can go out and back 1,200 feet to get to a build site that's 40 feet away. Places like anything over 800 feet, and you will need an active permit. Do you know how much of Vermont is 800 feet from a road? A lot of it. There are 2 maps out there. This is going to go into effect in July. And understand that you will hear it said that an Act 250 permit is not all that expensive relative to the cost of building. What is expensive is the engineering that needs to be done before you can apply, are the studies that have to happen before you apply, is the compliance that you have to observe before you even apply. That gets expensive. And 2 things are going to happen. The $1 million homes that can afford all of the permits and the fees and the engineering and the mitigation costs, they're going to build wherever they want. You and I are not. And when your neighbors discover that they can't build their retirement cottage or wherever they wanted on that piece of land that's been in the family for 100 years, that land no longer has the value it did before. And you know they're going to go to the lister. The listers, I'm sure, are bracing themselves already. And when their assessment goes down and we still have to raise the same amount of money, what's going to happen to your taxes? Yours will go up again. There is one more round of public hearings with regard to Act 181, Act 250 reform, the Land Use Review Board. I will try to get that date out the best I can gather from all the wilds of the state website is that it is April and May, and I don't think the exact dates and locations are set yet. But if you don't speak out, you're going to find out after the fact that this is a very short-term exemption in the villages and a permanent application of Act 250 in rural areas. That is a phenomenal amount of land. Okay. That is exciting as this report gets. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Charlton. Next, please welcome Senator Allison Clarkson and Senator Joe Major.
I won't be as optimistic as Tom. But I will say a few things. My name is Senator Joe Major, and with our senior Senator Allison Clarkson and our other Senator Becca White, we are your Windsor County delegation. I will, to piggyback on Tom's talk about Act 73, which is the educational reform bill that is currently in Montpelier. He is right in one aspect, and that is that the House and the Senate have two different proposals, two kind of major things that are issues that going forward with Act 73. The Senate favors a map that generally is on voluntary consolidation of schools and has a liberal school choice. The Senate is more dedicated to school choice reduction as well as forced redistricting. And I know this may be riveting television, but I will go on YouTube from time to time and go to the Senate and the House Education Committees and find out what is going on, see how those sausages are made. I also want to say that I am the vice chair of the Senate Agriculture Committee. And one of the things that we are working on is and that is food security, as well as what is S323, and that is the miscellaneous agriculture bill. This legislation strengthens the support of farmers. It improves regulatory clarity and invests in local food systems. We know that Vermont's working landscapes is not just a part of our heritage, it is a part of our economic future. And finally, I want to talk about healthcare as well. S197 focuses on the improvement of access to primary healthcare here in Vermont. We are facing a real workforce shortage, and especially in rural areas like ours, strengthening recruitment and retention is primary care for our providers, and the support of community health systems is so vital to communities like ours. So without further ado, I want it to be short. I want it to be short and let my senior senator, Senator Allison Clarkson, have a few words as well.
It's good to be in Chester. I love coming to this town meeting. Town meeting is a time to celebrate our municipal life together, and we really appreciate you welcoming your state partners to speak. Thank you so much. We work closely with our towns to improve life for Vermont and for Vermonters. I'm Allison Clarkson, and I have the privilege of serving you in the Senate as chair of Senate Economic Development, Housing, and General Affairs, and on Senate Government Operations. So Tom and I work on complementary committees, and I'd say there's lots of hope on some of those timelines and some of the things you heard from Tom. We have a bill in the Senate that is extending a lot of that. So it's we're all working on it all. We're here tonight to share that even though our world may be full of uncertainty, Vermont is stable, and your legislature continues to be very functional. We have a lot of challenges, no doubt, but I am certain we will navigate them in a civil and productive fashion. This year, we are really focused on sort of these key things. We're focused on protecting Vermonters' civil rights, protecting Vermonters' civil liberties, and protecting Vermonters from federal budget cuts. We're working hard to keep Vermont an affordable place to live. We're working to ensure Vermont has a sustainable education system, which is sustainably funded. And we're working every day in our committees, which takes up most of our time. We're about halfway through. We're 8 weeks through an 18-week session. Most of our work hasn't even made it to the other chamber yet for further consideration. So our work is work in progress. And if you hear about things you want to weigh in on, weigh in. Now is the time to weigh in. We're making progress on expanding access to primary care, building more housing, in re-envisioning education delivery, and reducing property taxes, expanding our workforce, protecting our data privacy and genetic privacy, and trying to reduce the gap in our transportation fund, which is $33 million. And if you have a solution to that, we want to hear it. Some of my committee work is we're working this year to build more housing for less money. We're working on consumer protection pieces, economic development, shoring up the resources we have for our small businesses, and protecting our genetic and data privacy, which we're, again, working on with our joint committees. In Senate Government Operations, we've just passed out a very exciting regional law enforcement pilot that's going to be done in Windham County. We've long, with the sort of dearth of volunteers in our EMS and in our fire departments, we are really looking at regionalization of a lot of our public safety services. And we're doing a pilot in Windham County to see over 5 years if we can do it and make it work in law enforcement. And we're also working on election protections in our voting rights bill. So many issues are being addressed in all the different committees. All of us are grappling with the tough reality that money is tight, which doesn't mean that our needs have evaporated. It is a very tight budget year, and we face the perennial challenge of how to pay for all the good things Vermonters want and need. But I'd like to take, in the State House, we say, may I speak on a point of personal privilege? So I am going to ask you if I can speak on a point of personal privilege, if I may. After 22 years in the legislature, I have made the decision to retire. Serving you has been the honor of a lifetime. Thank you. Thank you for sending me to Montpelier to represent you and to advocate for you. Thank you for trusting me to make decisions on your behalf. Thank you for the gift of getting to know you. Going door to door in Chester has been a real pleasure, as it has been in all my other towns. It's been wonderful. The people of Windsor County are impressive. Getting to know and appreciate our town's idiosyncrasies, and boy, are there a lot of them. Tom was just telling me about a town meeting that lasted 6 hours with music and food. And getting to know the many glories of this remarkable state we are so lucky to live in. Never forget how lucky we are to live in Vermont. But I am ready for a new adventure. Vermont is full of opportunities and needs, and I am ready to focus on some of those. I've treasured my time in the legislature. Thank you all for the opportunity to serve you. It's an honor and a privilege that I never forget and always am grateful for. Thank you so much.
So I do want to say one quick last thing. Now, Alice and I have to leave because we have to go to two more town meetings. So it's not just we're leaving Chester. We value Chester exponentially and value of. And the one thing that she said that I cannot stress enough, we work for you. And if you have an issue, please let us know. It is so imperative that people get upset about things and don't let us know. We work for you. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator Major. Thank you, Senator Clarkson. Thank you, Representative Charlton. For those of you out in the back, there are a few seats down front if you would like to take advantage of those. And thank you, Scouts. Yep. So there's, again, there are a series of seats down front for anyone who wants them. Before we start with the warned articles, here's a little bit of information about the plan for this meeting. My role as this moderator is to facilitate this meeting. I will follow the processes and procedures that have been used before here and in other communities all across the state and beyond for hundreds of years. Your role is as follows. After an article is read, it will need to be moved and seconded. To do that, raise your hand, get recognized by the moderator, stand up, always good to stretch, state your name, the town you live in, and say, I move the article. Once the article is moved, another person will need to raise their hand, get recognized, stand up, state their name and the town they live in, and say, I second that motion. This is your chance to participate in our democracy and get your name in the meeting minutes. Yes, you can be famous, and our meeting will move right along and you'll get dinner sooner. Once an article is moved and seconded, the article will be read again. At that point, I'll ask if there's any discussion of the article. If you want to share information about the article, please, again, raise your hand, wait to be recognized. A microphone will now be brought to you. If that's the case, please keep it close to your mouth so that the people in Zoom land can hear you. Once again, state your name, the town you live in, and then make your brief comment about the article. Your comment needs to be related to the article under consideration, brief, and directed at me, the moderator. Another chance, though, for you to make history. If you would like to make a motion or an amendment to an article, please raise your hand, get recognized, wait for the microphone, state your name, where you live, and then state your motion. I will repeat the motion and then ask for it to be seconded. If the motion is seconded, we will then open the floor for discussion of the motion. The person who made the motion will be given the first opportunity to speak. It was their idea. So after that, anyone who wants to speak may raise their hand and so forth and so on. You have it by now. If you do speak to a motion or amendment, you will not be able to speak to it again until everyone has had a chance to speak. Once discussion of a motion or an amendment is completed, we will then vote on it. As the discussion ends, I will read the article, state what a yay or aye or nay vote means, and then ask for all those in favor to say aye. All those opposed, nay. Our town clerk, Amy Record, will determine whether the ayes have it or the nays have a clear majority. If it is close, we will repeat the procedure and ask for all those in favor, the ayes, to stand and be counted. We'll do the same thing for those opposed, the nays. The final count will then be announced, as well as whether the article passed or not. Again, please remember, only registered voters in Chester are allowed to vote. If there is a question about the accuracy of a vote, a paper ballot may be requested by 7 voters. If that's the case, I will then explain that procedure at that time. Once the article is finished, we will then move on to the next article, repeat the process until we finish with the articles that have been warned for this meeting. Are there any questions about how we will conduct the business of Chester this evening? Hearing none, we will get started. The legal voters of the town of Chester are hereby notified and warned to meet at the Chester Town Hall, 2nd floor, in said town of Chester on Monday, March 2nd, 2026 at 6 p.m. to act on the following articles. Voting on Article 1, 2, and 3 will be by Australian ballot on March 3rd of 2026 from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. at the Chester Town Hall, 2nd floor. Article 1, to elect town officials for the ensuing year as provided by the public laws of Vermont. This voting will be done by Australian ballot. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Article 2, shall general obligation bonds or notes of the town of Chester in an amount not to exceed $430,000, subject to reduction from the receipt of available state and federal grants and aid, be issued for the purpose of financing the construction of upgrades to the existing sidewalks at an estimated cost of $1,800,000. These funds will provide the required 20% match for an awarded bicycle and pedestrian grant. Voting by Australian ballot. Is there any discussion of Article 2? Julie?
Yes, do I need to say my name? Julie Hance, Town Manager.
Chester.
Chester, Vermont. I just want to clarify for this. This is, if you've been in the town since 2016, you've been hearing about the Depot Street Sidewalk Project. We received an $800,000 grant back in 2016 to do sidewalk improvements. We had quite a holdup with right-of-way access needed by the rail because it crosses, pedestrian path will cross the rail. We just this year received that right-of-way easement from rail. So the project is moved forward with construction. What we have had to do is apply for additional funds because this was approved in 2016 and it is 2026. Costs have changed slightly. So it's doubled in cost. We received another grant for an additional $908,000 for the project. So the $430,000 is to match about a $2 million grant. And this is the Depot Street Sidewalk Project. Just so that we're clear on that. This is not another project. This is completing that one project.
Thank you. Is there any other additional discussion? Peter?
Yes, Peter Hutchins, I live in Smokeshare, which I don't know if we're gonna consider part of Chester or not. There we go. All right. You have to think about this project in a different way than it's just a sidewalk project. The thing that you're trying to do is bring business to Chester. So 103 is our biggest avenue coming through town. And it's been a discussion there was talks of bypasses in the 60s and 70s. So we really need to present our town. You're going to be presented on 103. So please, as you think about things and you think about things that you don't want to pay for, this has more an effect that carries on. It will carry to our grant list and it'll carry to the businesses on the town. And I want you to please think that, then it's just not, we're going to fix one sidewalk. It carries further to our economic development. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion of Article 2?
Arnie Janinas, Chester. And I just wanted to bring it forward that this is an example of what the town has to deal with. We start with a project that was $800,000, $1 million. 8 years later, 10 years later, the prices have doubled. And this is happening all over our budget, happening everywhere in your household. It's happening here in Chester also. So there's a lot of hard decisions. I support this project, but I just wanted to emphasize the example of what's happening in our government and the cost of everything that it takes to run this place.
Thank you. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, we'll move on to Article 3. Shall general obligation bonds or notes of the town of Chester in an amount not to exceed $300,000, subject to reduction from the receipt of available state and federal grants in aid, be issued for the purpose of paving Flamstead Road, River Street, the library parking lot, and patching Depot Street at an estimated cost of $300,000. Voting by Australian ballot. Is there any discussion of Article 3?
Mr. Moderator. Julie Hance, Chester. Just for clarity purposes, again, we do a paving bond every year. This year, as stated, it will be finishing the rest of Flamstead, River Street, the patching of Depot. We all know what Depot Street looks like right now. So Depot Street, Route 11 and Route 103, as they run through Chester's Village, are state highways, and they're maintained by the state. They're paved by the state. That road is not scheduled for repavement until 2030. So clearly, clearly that can't happen. We are working with a local, the plan was to have had sections fixed last year. The contractor just never could fit us in, unfortunately. So we are working with a more local contractor this coming year. And it's not going to be just filling holes. And Kirby is here, I know can speak more to this if we need to, but they will be milling out sections and actually doing repavement of those big sections. So it's not just filling it as we tend to do. It's bigger. It's a bigger pavement project, not whole lane, but milling and doing proper pavement, so that it should last us several years until the state does their paving project, which right now is slated for 2030. We'll see.
Thank you. Additional conversation or discussion? Thank you, Kevin, if you, yes, thanks.
Charlie Baker from Chester on River Street. We have a section of River Street that is so badly torn up and it's right before a blind curve. And I have watched people come down River Street and go into the left-hand lane on this blind curve to go, and they go at 30 miles an hour. So this is not cosmetic. I have been watching for months. I'm afraid there's going to be a head-on crash, and I don't think it would be survivable. So this is really a critical issue and not cosmetic.
Thank you. Is there any additional discussion? Yes. Please wait for the microphone to come to you. And again, thank you for stating your name and the town you live in.
Jareen Slavinsky, Chester. Just a question to you. Does the paving of Flamstead, is that the second part of Flamstead, or are they redoing the first part that is cracking?
Kirby Putnam in the back of the room. Could you- Sorry.
Yeah, just wait, Kirby. Thank you.
Kirby Putnam, Chester. It'll be the second portion, the continuation, the rest 1.5 miles of the road.
Thank you. Any additional discussion of Article 3? In the back, Sam? Thank you. Right around the corner. Yep.
Hi, Matthew Gorski. Oh,
Yep.
Matthew Gorski, Chester. Just speaking toward the library parking lot, there are some missing patches in the tarmac, which makes it dangerous to walk. If you pull out, there's a really big bump which can scrape the underside of your vehicles. So there's some work that needs done there.
Thank you. Any more discussion down front here, Sam? I hope you brought your track shoes.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Do your step count.
Gary, can you stand, please?
Gary King, Chester. Just a clarification, is this an all or nothing proposition? So if it gets denied by the voters, is there a backup plan to address the most, the priority she mentioned on River Street or Depot Street, which is a nightmare?
Thank you, Gary, for that and for directing it towards me. So, Ms. Hans, would you like to answer to that?
Julie Hans, Chester. Do I have to say that every time? So because it's bonds, if it does fail, we would not have the ability to finance, unless we did an emergency vote in the middle of the year.
Good. Thank you. Any additional discussion on Article 3? Hearing none, we'll move on to Article 4. Article 4, to see if the town of Chester will vote to approve borrowing for the purchase of a police cruiser for the police department in an amount not to exceed $70,000. This equipment is replacing existing equipment at the end of useful life and is not an addition to the town inventory. Is there someone willing to move the article? Thank you, Debbie Aldrich, for moving the article. Is there someone to second the article? Thank you. Mr. Alexander, Rick Alexander was the second. Okay, very good. Is there anyone who would like to provide any additional information on that before we open for discussion?
I can if it's necessary.
If necessary, okay, we'll discuss Article 4. Is there any discussion on Article 4?
Well, maybe I should just provide it. It was kind of a silly thing to say. So we have 4 cruisers. They're on a 4-year replacement cycle. So every year we replace a cruiser with the amount of miles that we put on a cruiser, but mostly idle time on our cruisers. That by the time we trade them in at 4 years, we are getting ready to have to put significant money into them. So 4-year cycle, we have found over the years is kind of that sweet spot to still get a good trade-in and not have to do a bunch of repairs, which we eventually, as we start moving forward to the capital plan, hopefully in 2027, the cruiser is something that, instead of borrowing every year to replace the cruiser, just getting it into the budget. So it's just a standard replacement tool. But for right now, we would be borrowing 70,000, likely borrowing from ourselves and repaying in 2 years is what we have talked about.
Thank you. Is there additional discussion on Article 4? I think, Mr. Pennell, do you have anything or? Thank you. Other discussion?
Charlie Baker, Chester. I have a question. I know that when I get a new car and I trade it in, what they give me is a little. Is there any potential of selling these vehicles and getting more? And how does that fund go back into the police department? Does it go into the general funds?
So when Julie Hans Chester,
We know who you are.
goodness. At the end, when a vehicle is either traded in or sold outright, we typically with all the vehicles do a cost analysis as to where we're going to get the better dollars. They offset the cost. So the 70,000 that we're borrowing is 70,000. The trade-in is already included in this number.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you for the question. Is there any additional discussion of Article 4? Seeing none, we will now vote on Article 4 to see if the town of Chester will vote to approve borrowing for the purchase of a police cruiser for the police department in an amount not to exceed $70,000. This equipment is replacing existing equipment at the end of useful life and is not an addition to the town inventory. At this point in time, all those in favor say aye. All opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Article 4 passes. Moving on to Article 5. To see if the town of Chester will vote to approve borrowing $100,000 to fund the town's grant match for Route 35 construction and the town's match on Thompson Road easement purchase and preliminary design. Is there someone willing to move the article? Debbie Aldrich moved. Is it seconded by anyone? Matt Gorski is our second. Thank you both. So Article 5, is there any discussion on Article 5?
Julie Hance, Chester, you want me, I'll explain a little bit, just so people understand, this is a different kind of article. The town received FEMA grant funds to do work, the last section of Route 35 that we've been doing for those who've been in town for a while. We've been receiving a series of grants to do complete underdrain and completely rebuild Route 35. We kept having to repave every few years because of the soils there. So this was the last section. We received FEMA funding. We received about $780,000 of FEMA funding. The project was ready to go to construction sooner. By doing that, we saved about $160,000. We were able to get the project done much quicker. So part of this is the grant match for that. Of work that has already been done. We typically do not like to do that, but we really wanted to take advantage of some significant savings. The other part of this is the Thompson Road Bridge project, Route 103 North, heading towards Ludlow. There are 3 bridges there. There's the Thompson Bridge, the Jewett Bridge, and the Palmer Bridge. All 3 of those bridges are town-owned bridges in state right-of-way. So we are able to take advantage of federal dollars in the replacement of that bridge. What is going to happen is Thompson Bridge, Jewett Bridge are both being removed. Thompson Bridge is being replaced on a new alignment. So you know those bridges are very sharp turns right from 103 right onto the bridge, or right from the bridge onto 103. They're very dangerous intersections. It's also the cause, those bridges are also the cause of a lot of our ice jams because the river channel is wider than the bridge. So we are getting federal dollars, about $4 million, to remove those 2 bridges, replace the bridge on alignment. The only match that the town has is 2.5% of the design. And we had to purchase an easement from one of the property owners. So that is what this piece is. The rest of the project is 100% funded. So this is the match for that. So that's why.
Thank you. Any additional discussion of Article 5? Hearing none, we will now vote on Article 5 to see if the town of Chester will vote to approve borrowing $100,000 to fund the town's grant match for Route 35 construction and the town's match on Thompson Road easement purchase and preliminary design. All those in favor of Article 5 signify by saying aye. All opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Article 5 passes. On to Article 6. Article 6, to see if the town will vote to raise $4,461,054.94 to be paid to the Chester Town Treasurer on September 15th, 2026 to pay current expenses in any part of the town's indebtedness. Is there someone willing to move the article? Moved by Heather Chase. Is there a second? Seconded by Julie Kelly. Thank you. Okay, at this point, is there any discussion or, excuse me, any additional information on Article 6?
Yes, Julie Hantz, Chester, I'll do the budget presentation.
By all means, you have the floor.
I think we have a PowerPoint to pull up, which may be hard to see, but I'm going to talk through it anyway, so. Okay, so thanks, Evan. So first, I just want to take a minute to thank all of our staff. The town of Chester, I brag on them often, has amazing staff. There is a lot done that takes to run the town, to get the work done that needs to be done and through across all departments. And we've been very blessed to have amazing staff who work very hard for the town. And I'm very grateful and thankful to all of them. Just if I'll go through each department. A lot of times people like to know the names of who you see when you come in. So Amy Record this year has taken over as town clerk. As many will recall, Debbie retired this past year. And so Amy has taken over that role and is doing an amazing job. Nope, just stay right there. There you go, Evan. I don't. We have added Samantha Verte as our administrative assistant. Samantha, probably mostly when you come into town hall, and she is doing great as well. Lori Roser in our finance department. Lori is stepping away from the position this year, going on to bigger and better things. And we're very thankful to her for her work. And she will be missed. We'll be talking a little bit later about the replacement of that position. For general government, we have, for zoning and listing, we have Preston Bristow, Hugh Quinn, Kathy Hasbrook, and Val Pertoyne, can never say her name right, do a fantastic job holding down planning and zoning. And listers, those departments work together. Preston has now transitioned away from zoning administrator. Preston has gone to part-time. He is our part-time town planner and works with me in a lot of things, but really assisting a lot with the Housing Commission and the new Economic Development Commission that the select board stood up at the end of the year. Hugh Quinn has taken over as our zoning administrator and is doing a good job as well. He remains as the Planning Commission chair, which has made a great connection between those departments. And as the town CLA is continuing to drop, we are at 59.75% at this particular point. There are not enough appraisal firms in the state of Vermont to handle all of the towns that are needing reappraisal. We are slated to start that reappraisal in 2027. It is a 2-year process. So our CLA is expected, we are expected probably to drop a little bit more. I'm hoping that we can hold steady so that it doesn't get much worse. The lower our CLA goes, the higher our education tax rate goes. So we have talked to the appraisal firm that we are under contract with to see if there was any way we could beg, borrow, steal to get them to come sooner. We can't. So 2027 is our year that we will start. So there will be information coming out closer to the end of 2026. Getting everybody on track for that reappraisal process that will start next year. I want to just give a shout out to the Development Review Board, board that issues all conditional use subdivision variance permits throughout the town. And the Planning Commission has worked very hard finishing up the bylaws for 2025. 2026, they're going to begin the discussions about the town plan updates. So stay tuned for that. It's a good process to be involved in. That is the document that guides planning and how we're going to grow in the town. It's an important document that gets referred to often. So if that is an interest, I encourage everybody to be involved in that process. And you can see Hugh Quinn in the office. He can certainly talk to you about that. One of the other things that happened in the planning department this year is the town established a neighborhood development area, which some is what Tom Charlton talked about. A neighborhood development area was created. It's going to help the town and the Housing Commission as they start working on the potential development of housing. The other thing that allows us to do is the select board just signed a resolution applying for what's called Tier 1B status. That Tier 1B status gets us some levels of Act 250 exemption if a project meets certain criteria and projects within that neighborhood development area. So for the large housing project that we had started and did a feasibility study on for the large water tank property south of town, that is in the neighborhood area. So we could potentially get Act 250 exemption on that project, which will make it very attractive to a developer as that project moves forward. And there are several other sites that are being reviewed, also again, within that neighborhood development area and within the Tier 1B status. So that was a lot of work done by the planning department and will make housing development easier for us going forward. There is going to be discussion this coming year regarding something that's called Tier 3. The State Land Use Board is still working through some of that, making some changes. It will have impact to some of those properties in the rural parts of town. Be looking for a letter. We will be contacting and reaching out to those that it will have direct impact on so that you have an opportunity to be involved in those discussions. It is not something done at the town level. It is something done at the state level, but we will want you to be connected and aware of what's going on because that will have an impact on your property. So I would start perking your ears up when you're hearing conversations about Tier 3 if you live in rural parts of town. And again, come in, talk to Hugh, talk to Preston. They can absolutely fill you in on where that process is at. So the Housing Commission, I don't think I did a slide on this one. So the Housing Commission has been very active. A feasibility study of the town land was completed this year. The town is currently obtaining a market study to determine the need of varying levels of housing. In order to attract a developer, we need to have a market study that says the market will support additional housing in Chester. So that is the piece that the Housing Commission is working on next. We're currently also reviewing proposals from consultants to help take us to the next step of developers and getting developers to actually come to Chester. They're also looking at some tools to help develop potentially ADUs. So it's not always just big housing projects. Infill projects are helpful as well. And we're looking at tools and potential funding sources for property owners there. And the Housing Commission is going to be doing a presentation under Article 7. So I'll leave that conversation for them. That is on the funding of the reserve fund. In December, the Select Board established the Chester's first official town economic development commission. They've had 2 meetings and have already got my head spinning a little bit. 4 major projects that we're working on right now, establishing a local business, an official local business registry. A gap inventory is being created to determine those missing desired businesses that we want for Chester. Surveys are going to be going out to local businesses, grouped by type of business. So pay attention and keep your eyes open for those. And then there's also going to be a series of kind of community forums, industry-based, to come in and talk to the Economic Development Commission about, struggles you may have as a business owner in Chester, what you need, what you're looking for, what we're not doing, what we are doing, all those types of things. So just getting a real feel of the businesses that we have in Chester so that they know how to move forward, support the businesses that we have, but also look to attracting new business, which ultimately helps our grants, which helps your taxes. So I think that the next one, what I put up there is not what I put here, and that's kind of dumb. So public safety, we'll go to the public safety departments, always busy. Public safety made up of police, fire, and ambulance. Chester has 3 municipal services. They are not volunteer services, they are municipal services. Chester Police Department at this point right now is down. We have 4 full-time officers. We are in a part-time. We are down 1 full-time position and 1 part-time position. So if you know anybody that's looking to be a cop, let me know. Just a note, we've been working a lot on cross-training, kind of regionalizing within ourselves to get calls done better. All of our police officers at this point are Vermont State Certified First Responders. A couple of them are actually also EMTs. So if there is an ambulance call, our police department goes. It helps us with quicker response times, so that all the staff that is in that building are trained and cross-trained to be able to help each other out, which has helped. It has saved money in the long run. And again, the ultimate goal is quicker response time in emergency situations. And the select board set up a couple years ago. I'm not sure that a lot of people, I think we need to talk more about it. There is a citizen advisory committee that actually Frank Kelly chairs. It's a forum. It's a place for the community. It makes the connections between the community and the police department. And so if you ever have questions or concerns or anything like that, and certainly go to the police department at any time. Chief Williams loves to talk with people. So please feel free to go anytime and have a conversation with him, but also feel free to utilize the CAC. That is what is there for. They are there for. They review police policies and make sure that we're keeping in line and doing what we're supposed to do. So we don't talk about them enough. And then the other thing completed in 2025 was the establishment of the CERT team, which is a group of civilians that are able to assist the public safety department during emergencies, blocking roads, helping crosswalks. They are all trained first aid. If that is something you're interested in being a part of, again, please reach out to the public safety department and we will get you connected. Fire department responded to 209 fire calls in 2025. That number keeps ticking up a little each year, unfortunately. The town this year officially combined fire and EMS. They were 2 separate departments. We have combined them under 1 chief this year. They go hand in hand. It is how most departments work. And it will save money in the long run as there will be 1 chief over both departments. Mike Ranzio is our deputy chief, and that is allowing him more time to do the things that he is passionate about, which is actually providing medical assistance. Scott is going to be retiring. I've snagged him for a couple of years, but he is going to be retiring in 2026. So we will be beginning that search process sometime later this summer. Chester Ambulance has responded to 521 911 calls. Again, a significant increase from previous years, but we also stood up the interfacility transfer service and they did 344 interfacility transfers. The nice thing about the transfer service is it's a significant revenue source for the town. So last year, 2025 was our model year was our pilot year to see if it would be beneficial. It definitely has proven to be beneficial for the town. And there's a shortage of interfacility transfers across the state. So it's providing a huge service to the area. We are working next on getting Mike is working next on getting our critical care transport license. Mike Ranzio passed his paramedic. He's now a paramedic, first ever for the town of Chester, which is great. So he is working on that critical care transfer service, and he is also working on the community paramedicine program, which we've talked about in the past. And now that he has the licensure to do that, that's coming next. Public Works. Next slide, Evan. Oh, and again. And again. Boy, there you go. Not keeping up with that very well. So the highway department, as always, has had a very busy year. We all enjoyed a pretty mild mud season in 2025. Do not expect that in 2026. We are expecting a bad mud season. I'm hoping that because we're preparing for it, we won't get it. But the frost is very deep, culverts all over dirt roads are heaving. If you live on a dirt road, you're hitting those every time you drive. That's not good, a good sign. So mud season, we are anticipating is going to be a brutal one. So with that, I'm going to do a little public service announcement and say, if you live on a dirt road, plan to limit your trips. One of the things that really makes mud season a nightmare is the up and down and up and down and up and down the road. Really, it matters if you can limit the number of trips. If you live on a dirt road, that is helpful. So if at all possible. So the highway crew this year completed several large projects, several of which included resurfacing several roads. After the flood of 23, one of the things that we were able to take advantage of this time around with flooding was what they call FEMA 406 mitigation funds. If you have a project or are working on a road, you can request mitigation funds up to the amount of your actual damages to do additional mitigation work. So there are several projects that we were able to receive those mitigation funds, and they're received at FEMA's rate of 95%. So we took advantage of that as much as possible. So there was a significant amount of road resurfacing. We often talk about paving roads, but we often don't spend money to resurface gravel roads, which is something that is really important for the longevity of a gravel road as well. So we were able to get a fair amount of that done this year. A little bit more is going to be happening in 2026. Finishing that up, several ditching projects throughout town. The other big project completed this year is you may have noticed during or after the flooding event of 23 that we got permission to remove a lot of the river gravel. Well, it's our road gravel that went into the river, and got it back. It was nicely rinsed and washed for us, but we got permission to go in and retrieve a bunch of that. So there was one more project just this side of the treatment plant. So 8,000 cubic yards we were able to extract from the river there. It's not great gravel after it's been washed beautifully, but we're able to crush it, and so it is supplying sand, road sand, which is very helpful for the town. So that was a huge project done in 2026. And again, last major repairs to drive were completed. And we also received a forestry grant this year. We were able to plant, I think it was 36 new trees throughout town. Again, 100% funded. And all of that work of helping the landscaper plant and then the watering of them multiple times a week. We just want to thank the CCC for that. That was all managed by the CCC. So that was tremendous work too. With the assistance of large, I think you can probably advance it. I can't see that. Yeah. With the assistance of the large structures grant funding, 2026, we're going to replace 2 bridges on Wyman's Falls, a large culvert on Cummings, and another large culvert on Old Stage Road. With the remaining 406 mitigation funds, the town will be installing a large box culvert on Smoke Shear and another one on Christmas Tree. Those are upsizing. 2 culverts that always wash out during major events. We are upsizing to box culverts, so hopefully that will not happen in future events. The other thing that is happening is because there was damage to the reservoir, we received funds to do an engineering review of the Chester Reservoir. And we have known for a number of years that the spillway is undersized on the Chester Reservoir. And in 2023, the floodwaters actually came over top of the dam. They topped the dam. So if we ever have major failure of that dam, it will do significant damage because it will take out the water tank on Reservoir Road. So we need to have real serious conversations about what we're going to do with Chester Reservoir. It will start with this engineering design to tell us what is recommended. And then we should be getting that report soon. So there will be some discussions at the select board level about how much funds we're going to put into any repairs, what those funds are, and there will be community discussion coming forth about that as well. And then right away finally cleared on the Depot Street. We talked about that. Paving is coming. And then I think I let you know about 2030 is the magic date for Route 103. Leave it if we get there. Okay, you can advance it to, there we go. So we are often told, of course, that Chester rec facilities are amazing. They are. And just like to put plugs out for all the youth sports programs that we offer. If you've got kiddos anywhere in the area, we have a lot of programs for those kids, and we are coordinating a lot of adult programs. We've got Zumba, there's yogurt, there's strength training, all kind pickleball now, all kinds of great adult activities that we're adding as well that Matt manages. And work completed in 2025. We got a new fence around the pickleball court. Frisbee golf course had some improvements. We did some asphalt repair to the skate park and then upgrades to the baby pool. And in 2026, the big project there is going to be, we received grant funds for an ADA walking path that will go through the Pinnacle. It'll be mapped out. It will be a 3-season surface, but will be a walking path for all abilities that will just meander through the Pinnacle itself, which we received grant funding for and are kind of excited. People have been asking for something like that. You go to the next. Okay, facilities. Facilities budget, library, town hall, rec, historic buildings, and public safety building are the buildings that we own. Large projects completed in 2025. Sprinkler system was finally replaced in the library. When we did that, we also replaced the lighting downstairs and added new lighting so you can actually see when you walk in the basement of the library. A large project was the installation of electric on the green. That was used for various purposes. We have been running into issues of extension cords that just run all over the place on the green, which is nice. So that was funded through a grant. Heat pumps at Town Hall. These units, the big ones are gone. And windows at the Yosemite, electrical upgrades to Town Hall, and a ton of smaller projects throughout all the buildings. The wayfinding signs went up finally this year. We did receive, apparently I need to get up and walk, sorry. The wayfinding signs were installed. We did find out that we underspent our grant by about $43,000. The downtown transportation grant funds after COVID were opened up to include village center designated towns, which Chester is. That there were only 2 years that village centers were allowed to apply. This project was funded under that. So they did reach out to me and said, please don't underspend your grant. We want you to keep those funds. So we did get permission to utilize those funds to do the town gateway signs, those horrid white ones that, yeah. So we are working, I have a little group that's working with me on, with the architect on designing those signs, again, keeping them classic, simple, understated. The 40,000 will not pay for all 5 signs, but it will give us a good start. It'll pay for the design and it will at least get us to it. So we're excited about that. And you may recall we did a mock-up on the green this summer of traffic control and flow of traffic. So some of those changes will become permanent, a lot to do with painting, asphalt painting and those types of things will be coming this year as well. This is a good time for me to give a plug on the solar field. Still under negotiation. So I can't say a ton about it. Just know that, oh boy, and we'll make that all public when the time comes, but we are still moving forward. We are hoping to close in the next couple of months. Numbers all work. It's going to be great. Plain Capital is a really large corporation and we're not so much. So it's a little bit difficult working with them, but we're getting there and we're going to have it in a couple of months and it'll be fabulous. Also with facilities, you can go to the next slide, I think. Oh, go back one, I guess. No, okay. As you may recall, the town was awarded, it's just a reminder, the Municipal Energy Resilience Grant through the state. We got the 499,000 no match last year. That's being used in 3 municipal buildings. It paid for these heat pumps, insulations going up in the attic here, insulation in the attic at the library. It paid for the lighting at the library, new heat pump in the basement at the library, and some ADA improvements that were desperately needed there. The Academy building, it's doing all kinds of stuff. So insulating the attic, exterior storms, heat pump units throughout the building, backup propane system, ADA improvements to the bathroom. And so that will make the Academy building able to be open year round. So that's a game changer for that building, with no expense to our local tax dollars. Some of that work began in 2025. The rest will be completed in 2026, so we can close it out. So grants. Okay, next one, Evan, sorry. This is just grants managed in 2025. I'm required by law to report this. Urban forestry grant, tree removal, 7 bank stabilization projects, 3 property buyouts, downtown transportation funds for improvement on the green, DTF funds for the signage, generator for the Jeffrey Well, final Route 35 projects, updates to the town's erosion road and sidewalk inventories, FEMA 406 mitigation funds, municipal energy grant, and then there's other smaller ones. They're all listed in the town report. The next slide. The additional fund. So it's like, okay. Additional funds received, grants awarded in 2025. Fire department got the AFG grant. I cannot take credit for that one. They did that one themselves, which was fabulous. Town plan upgrades, Cummings Road culvert, Wyman's Falls bridges, walking path, and the additional money for the Depot Street sidewalk. So total grants managed and funded in 2025 is a little over 7 million of funds running through the town. Thank you. We will this year, though, with that list, I will be taking a little bit of a break on grant writing in 2026. Some of these are really big projects that we've gotten funded, and they're all, not all, there's several of them that are coming to construction in 2026, early 2027. We're kind of at the threshold where we're starting to get over our head a little bit with the staff that we have. So we're going to take a little break. Also, if it's grants that require matches, we're going to take a little break. We just need to regroup and get ourselves comfortable again. So it probably won't be as great a report next year. Want your expectations too high. So getting to the budget, 2020, next slide, sorry. There we go. As with many towns in the state, 2025 is not ending well. Many of us are in the same boat. Currently, at this point, we are ending with an unaudited deficit of about 250,000. It's a big number. So it's a lot of things causing that, very unstable markets. And the tariffs definitely have had an impact on us this year. A lot of stuff that we get for highway come from Canada. And so I don't care about the politics or where you stand on it. They affect local projects. And so it is important that people understand that we are dealing with volatile budgets that we are having a hard time managing. I think also there has been a little bit of where we have tried to budget a little too closely and not left ourselves a whole, I mean, in talking to some of my counterparts municipalities, they have contingency lines throughout their whole budget. We haven't typically done that because we haven't really needed to. I think that's a conversation for the 2027 budget, is to talk about that. If the markets and are going to remain unstable and fluctuate, I think we need to plan a little better for the unknown. So this year, the primary causes of the deficit are starting right out, we had a revenue shortfall from the state of 120 grand. So that hit it right there. We also had a revenue shortfall in police As you recall, we had a period of time where we were down officers, and so we brought the sheriff's department in. So that was about 2 months of where no revenue was generated. We also this year had extensive legal fees. Public records requests are becoming, I don't know if people have heard about them much, but public records requests are becoming an issue. So much so that the legislature is writing policy. Select Board is going to be looking at a policy Wednesday night. Public records request, I had one public records request for the police department that cost the town over $7,000 in legal fees that I cannot recoup. It is, anybody can request public records. If they are sensitive public records, they have to go to lawyers first. Certain things have to be redacted. So it can be quite costly. And it's unfair to the local taxpayer. But we overspent, all the legal lines are over $53,000. Some of that has to do with roads. Some of it has to do with the Julian Quarry that we had to deal with, and public records requests. So again, not a number that we can do anything about. But 53,000 for Chester is a penny. It's over a penny on the tax rate. Vehicle maintenance, we had some vehicle maintenance items. If you total up all of the vehicle maintenance lines, they're over about 50 grand. We had some excavator issues. We had some fire issues, fire equipment issues in various departments that, of course, we had repairs we had to do. And a smaller number, but processing, that 8,000 yards of gravel had to be processed. So that was an unbudgeted number, but it was a number that was discussed and we were willing to, because it will provide savings long-term. So that's where we ended 25. The next one. I will say, to get ahead of this, that I know there has been discussion about a potential deficit from 2024. The current audit that we received for 2024 shows a deficit. The amount of that deficit does not match our books. So we have talked with our auditors, who have been our auditors for years, and all agreed upon review and talking with them that there are some things that are not right. So the audit is going to need to be re-audited, which they are doing at no cost to you. And those audit results are going to need to be restated. What we don't know is what that number is. So once we have it, they are re-auditing while they are auditing 2025, which is happening as we speak. When we have all of that figured out, there will be community discussions about what it is, what caused it, number one, what it is and how we're going to resolve it. So that'll be coming. Beyond that, I don't know, because there's something in those audits that aren't right. That much we do know. So stay tuned for that, because there is more coming. There is more coming on that. So next, I think. So the budget, the 2026 budget, is a level service budget. That's what level service, which is if we keep all the services that we have, that's what is necessary to operate the town. There's no new programs being added. This is what it costs to run the town. Currently today, the operations budget is showing an increase of 7%, is where we're at. So again, not a fabulous number, not a number we're in love with by any means. But if we keep the services we have, this is what it is. And there was a lot of discussion around that during budget season of any ways that we could to keep it lower, but also anticipating if we're running deficits, it's because we're budgeting too tight. So we also need to be mindful of that. We can pick numbers and cut them, but we're going to go over them. If you're keeping the services the same, we will have a cost overrun. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. This budget for 2026 does include loan payments loans and the capital borrowings that we have. The number one thing right off the bat that it includes is highway did not end 2025 with a surplus. Last year it did. So you have a $93,000 swing right there because highway did not have a surplus. Other major factors was the increase in loan payments and capital borrowings. So those contributions were up 63,000 this year because of borrowings. The greater is one of them. So you're up 63 there. You're up 93 on the highway surplus swing. Increase in salary and health insurance. We kept it below rate of inflation. It's at 3.4%. So we held that. There were a couple changeovers in positions, in employment where, maybe somebody left that, was a single health insurance and somebody came on that was a family plan. So that changes things significantly. This budget reflects some grant matches in highway that are coming. This budget also includes additional funds for finance staff. I'm going to explain that in a second. And this budget also includes funds. We established a reserve fund in the town several years ago. We've never funded it. This year is establishing $40,000 that will go into the reserve fund to have, should we have other years of something unanticipated that we can't plan for. Not there for a rainy day, not there to buy something we don't need. We're talking about funds that are not discretionary. When we run into a cost overrun, that's not a discretionary fund. No, not discretionary expenditure. For capital, I think we went through these already, but we're going to be the only capital things this year, the 300,000 for the paving, which we do every year, 430 for the Depot Street match, the 100 for Route 35, which we just approved. We're really underway on the asset management, the asset list, which the next step will be putting that into our capital plan, and then we'll start having conversations about how we transition. But that's in the capital section. So before I I'm sorry, keep going. Next one, Em. Next one. I'm sorry, there we go. Before I finish up the general fund, I just want to point out the water and sewer department. We don't technically vote on the water sewer budgets, but I do just want to let you know quickly some things that are happening there, as it is a critical part of our infrastructure. So there are 3 large projects happening in the water sewer department. Secondary well is going in. The town has 1 well. So we got funding for a second well. That well is being tested right now, and they're doing some drilling. So that is hopefully going to be installed. Jeff would like it in 2026. Probably is going to be 2027. We did receive grant funds to install a generator at the Jeffrey well. There currently is not one. And those bids that was FEMA funding. Those bids came in double what we had received for funding. So we've requested additional funding. So that project is on hold. The big project is the $3 million project, well, 2.9 that was approved last year. It's the Depot Street Force Main, Gravity Feed Line, and First Avenue Pump Station. So that's a big sewer project that is taking place. We did receive about 800,000 in subsidy on that. So we received approval for 2.9, but we're only going to end up spending about 2.2, which is great. These have gone to bid. Bids came in right about at the engineer's estimate, which is excellent. That work is going to be starting this spring. So we can anticipate that. The other thing that happened this year is we had new meters installed, new water meters installed. The benefit of the new meters is our meters were 20 years old, which when a water meter fails, I am told by those who know that when a water meter fails, it does not read as much water. So you're not getting accurate reads to the detriment of us. So we're not collecting the funds that we that we need to collect. So we've increased, or we purchased new meters. Those have all now been installed. The nice thing about these is that they are cellular meters, which means Amy can read them right from her desk, which saves many hours of labor every quarter. It also means that if you feel that your bill is high, we can do a quick check and say, oh yeah, we can see that you're using water at 3 o'clock in the morning when everybody in your house is asleep. So we can see that on a moment by moment, which is really helpful. Those will help us get accurate reads so we can make sure that we're billing correctly. It's also going to help us start creating a capital plan for the water and sewer departments as well. Also, a preliminary engineering report has been completed for the upgrades to the wastewater treatment plant. 2026 is the last payment on the current sewer bond for the treatment plant. In the next few years, we'll be ready for upgrades there. So there's some grant funds we'll be applying for to try to help offset that cost, but that's a couple years down the road. So next one. So what to watch for in 2026? Given a potential of a building trend perhaps of deficits, which has me very uncomfortable, has caused me to take a step back and reevaluate some things, reevaluate how we're managing, reevaluate internal controls that we have. And so there are some changes coming in 2026. Some operational changes that I want people to be aware of. The first one is we need to talk about finances more often than we do. So I would expect that there will be finance conversations monthly at the select board with official reporting quarterly. But there can be more financial conversations. The other thing, and probably one of the most critical, is we created a Lori was leaving, so it was the perfect opportunity, and Lori's advice to me to say that we need to create an actual finance director position. We need an upper level of finance. With the amount of money that runs through this town, it's not just a $4.5 million budget. 7 million in grants, 4 or 5 million in bonds, 3-4 million in a water project. We're a $20 million company with finances run by 1.5 people. And so basically, we have outgrown ourselves. And so we need to have staffing levels that can handle this. I am very pleased to say that I reached out to somebody that I know, and I know many of you do, because she is a person I trust explicitly to help me resolve this issue that we may have. Deb Epler is coming back. Yeah. Deb is, it's a great grab. She is not moving back to Chester, so I don't want anybody getting super excited about that, but she will be working remotely. She'll be here 1 day a week in office, and then we'll be working remotely. So I have a lot of faith that we will get some things figured out, and I am really pleased with that. Some of the other stuff we're going to do is there's going to be, and Deb is going to work with us on this, we're going to do some more internal training at the department head level, my level, select board level, on budget management, how to read financial statements, just so that people understand and we all have the skills that we need to run the finances of this town, just to make sure we're all good. And some budget management tools are being installed. We're starting a purchase order system, which Chester has never had, which will really be helpful for us. And talking to some my counterparts in other towns that have finance degrees, and in talking with Deb, there's some reporting and some projection reporting that we can do that will really help us. So really excited about that. The one thing that I would tell the community that to pay attention to, it's going to come this summer. We are going to do a series of forums or workshops or whatever we want to call them, where we do a deep dive into the services that this town offers. For a town of, just under 3,100 people, We have all the services. And so we are a large, small town. And when I talk to other people about the amount of money that we're dealing with in this town, they're shocked because they're much bigger and they're dealing with that amount. So it's good stuff, but we need to start evaluating, I think, the services we have. Are they services that we want? Are they the services we still want to pay for? Or are there efficiencies that we can do? Are there things we're willing to accept for a little bit lesser service that would save us money? And so we're going to go department by department. They're going to be public. They're going to be in the community. So we're going to need community involvement on those. We need to hear from you. I can't sit in my office and cut services, and the select board isn't going to want to do that either. We need to know from the community, what are you looking for? What are you willing to pay for? I think there's also a lot of people don't understand necessarily all the services that we have, what your highway department is actually doing. And what your police, what your fire, what your ambulance, I think what everybody is actually doing for service for the town. And so that is going to be really important. We're going to do that ahead of the 2027 budget. And again, I will get the word out the best that I can. We will do what we can to make sure that we get the word out and that we get the community involved the best way that we can. So again, that's going to be really critical. We're at a crossroads in our town. It's getting really expensive. There are factors that are putting pressure on us that we don't have any control over. But yet we still have to operate the town. So I think we're at a place where those conversations are going to just be really critical for us going forward as a community. So I'll get off that soapbox. So summary, I think the last one. The 2026 budget reflects an all-in increase of 285, which is approximately 7%. This is operational as well as the loan bond payments. Those are all in there together. Again, this is the cost to run this town with the services that we have today. And again, talking to my counterparts in other towns, this is in line with other communities are seeing. A lot of other towns have retail sales local options tax, which anyway, no, we're not doing that, but or we're not proposing that, I should say. They use those funds to buy down their budgets. They use those funds to resolve deficits. We don't have that tool. But when I look at communities across the state, our budget increase is in line with a lot of what other towns are seeing as well. So that is my presentation. We're asking for support of the budget. And I'm happy to answer whatever questions I can.
Thank you, Julie, for that detailed review. Are there any other discussion of this? Yes, please wait for the microphone. And here comes Sam. She's making her way. And if you want to stand right down here, thank you. And again, I will ping pong around and give everyone a chance to.
Thank you. Jerry Gleason, Flamstead Road. Julie, I know you're reestablishing a reserve fund, something in the area of $40,000. Can this handle any upside in the audit or the results of the audit? Or is there additional funds as well that have been set aside for whatever that audit might result in?
Do I have to say Julie Hans-Chester?
Yeah, you don't have to tell us that. We believe you.
No, this does not incorporate resolving any deficit. The conversation and weigh in if you want. The conversation that was had at the select board level was that once we actually know what the deficit is, because we have to get audited first,
right,
before we know what that deficit is. Chances are, we'll have discussions about the best way to resolve that, depending on what the dollar amount is. It may be that it just is a budget increase for 2026, or maybe it's proposed as a 2027, or maybe it's proposed as a borrowing for 2027. I think the select board hasn't really had that discussion yet. We want to see what the restated audit of 2024 looks like And then what our audited 2025 number looks like. So no, this does not include that, the 40,000 to reserve funds. The select board could certainly decide if it wanted to put that.
So I believe your intention would be to probably establish a bond at some point in time and go out for a loan. Now, is that something that you would be doing midpoint in the year? Or would you be able to delay that until the next budgetary period?
We could go mid-year. It would require a special town meeting because we would need authorization from the voters to borrow. Probably not a bond, probably would just be a regular borrowing. Depending on interest rates, we would shop for the best interest
I
rate.
know
we
this
can
is
get.
the worst case scenario.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Okay.
probably would be proposed for 2027,
okay, thank you.
Thank you.
but the board will decide.
Is there any other discussion on Article 6? And again, thank you for stating your name, the town you live in, and we'll go from there.
Slavinsky, Chester. I agree with Deb Epler's choice. She is excellent. And I'm very happy to hear that. Well, it's been 2 years since I last spoke at this meeting. I spoke 2 years ago. I decided to give it another shot because I was correct in stating 2 years ago that after listening to many select board meetings, it sounded like the taxes were going to continue to increase with no end in sight. And they have. If you pass this proposed town increase for this year, the cumulative increase for this town for the past 4 years will be over 33%. And if with a 12% projected increase on the education budget, the cumulative increase will be over 46% for the education budget for the past 4 years. Combined, this is over 41% increase for the past 4 years. Our personal increase has been increased over 51%. And this is because of the Homestead Act decreasing the income threshold, which makes us take money out of our 401k more than we want to because we have to pay the taxes that we owe. This is making it unaffordable to live here in Vermont. What was once a dream home for us is becoming a nightmare due to taxes. People in Chester are struggling to make ends meet. I'm surprised that the select board members believe that raising taxes to not cut services will entice people to want to move to Chester. I have already had several people tell me that they are looking for another state to live in once they retire. They have lived in Vermont their whole life and they cannot afford to stay here because of the high taxes. The state of Vermont has the 5th highest property taxes in the country, according to Rocket Mortgage. They are close to New Hampshire's property tax, and New Hampshire does not even have an income tax, and Vermont does. So people in Vermont are hit twice, once with a property tax and then again with an income tax. So why would anyone want to continue to live or move here? The idea of voting in a town meeting to me on a budget is crazy. I do not see that people voting in this open forum is inconsiderate and intimidating. Some people do not want to say what they think and how they vote because we're a small town and everyone will know and it could affect their business. It should be by ballot. And I'm hoping they change that back to ballot, which most states do, so that we can have the privacy to express everybody's desires without fear of ridicule. I propose that we vote no on this budget. This will give the select board an opportunity to go back and look at it again. Hopefully, they will lower this increase to make it more affordable to live here in Chester.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion on Article 6? Yes, and again, thank you for standing and stating your name, et cetera, et cetera.
Damon Tyler, Chester. As our select board knows, I like to educate myself about civics live. So my question to you, moderator, is if this controversial budget, if somebody wanted to make a movement to push it to ballot, is that something that could be done procedurally?
So your question, Mr. Tyler, is could this be moved to a ballot at this point in time?
Correct.
That is a very good question, but at this point in time, based on my understanding, that could not be moved at this point in time because it hasn't been warned in that way.
Mhm.
But it is something that the select board could take up at a later date with citizen input to make that happen.
Thank you, Mr. Conlon.
Is there another opinion on that matter?
I can just share with you, Damon, that many years ago, the voters voted to have all special articles voted from the floor at town meeting. And voted to have officers and voted from Australian ballot. To change that requires a vote warned at town meeting. There has to be a vote to make that change. That could happen if the board or a petition wants to put that on town warning for 2027. Then that would take effect in 2028. If that happens, it is a vote for all special articles. So budget, any special article would then be moved to Australian ballot. So that's the process. Yeah.
Thank you. So any other discussion of Article 6? Yes, sir. Wait for the microphone. Thanks for standing as well.
Mhm.
Telling us where you're from.
Hi, Butch Raymond Stearns, Chester. I agree with what that lady said, but I think we ought to put the blame where it really is. We get a tremendous amount of stuff from our town. You know, let's put the blame where it really is with the education tax that we have to pay. Our town tax is very.
We're not debating at this point in time. We're discussing the
Well, I'm
education.
just letting you know my opinion.
Thank you, sir. I really appreciate that. Is there any other discussion of Article 6? Hearing no further discussion for Article 6, we're going to vote in just a moment to see if the town will vote to raise $4,461,054.94. Excuse me, let me read that again. To raise $4,461,054.94 to be paid to the Chester Town Treasurer on September 15th, 2026, to pay current expenses and any part of the town's indebtedness. All those in favor of Article 6, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. The ayes appear to have it. Article 6 has passed. Moving on to Article 7. Article 7. Shall the voters establish a 1% local options tax on the sale of rooms, meals, and consumed alcohol for a period of 10 years? Revenue from the local options tax will be used to fund the Housing Reserve Fund, which is used to support the production of housing and increase opportunities for families and individuals to access affordable homes in Chester. Is there someone willing to move the article? So move, and you are. Thank you, Steve. Is there a second? It has been seconded by Ann Lamb. At this point in time, is there any discussion of Article 7?
Put your hand up, Joe.
Joe Carl, thank you. Take the microphone from Sam, or you can come over here.
Yeah.
You can come over here.
Joe Carl. I live in Chester. I'm the chair of the Housing Committee. And one thing I do want to start out with is read our mission statement, and that is the mission of the Town of Chester's Housing Commission is to create a strong, sustainable, inclusive community and a quality of affordable housing for all. And so I've got some talking points about this 1% and how it will affect you. So they're bulleted, so I'll just burn through them. In 2024, there was legislation passed that made it an option for local towns to add this tax. And all towns have the opportunity. Currently, there's 36 Vermont towns that have included this options tax. Several nearby towns have it, Ludlow, Springfield, and Londonderry. I believe if you are online, the Telegraph ran a story on December 31st entitled Chester Mulls a Local Options Tax. And neighboring towns have already used them and like them. The Vermont Tax Department will collect the 1% tax and send 75% of that tax collected to the town of Chester on a quarterly basis. It's estimated that Chester will receive roughly $60,000 in local tax annually. The revenues of the local options tax will be transferred to the town's Housing Reserve Fund, which was established by voters at last year's town meeting. Money in the Housing Reserve Fund will be used to pay pre-development costs like land surveys, real estate appraisals, environmental site assessments, marketing studies, site plans needed to secure housing grants and attract developers. The expenditures from the Housing Fund will be requested by our committee, the Chester Housing Commission, but they need to be approved by the Select Board. Most of the income from the local options tax on rooms, meals, and consumed alcohol will come from tourists and visitors. A local who drinks beer at a pub, buys a deli sandwich, or eats a meal in a restaurant will pay the local options tax. That tax may add 7 cents per beer, 9 cents per sandwich, roughly 15 to 50 cents per meal. Grocery and retail sales will not be charged a local options tax. Beer, wine, liquor, cannabis that are not consumed on premises will not pay the local options tax. The final wrap up, the Chester Housing Commission is committed to financing housing through alternative means like short-term rental registrations and this local options tax. It's a way of not what we feel is a needed committee. We don't want to have to fund it by raising your local property taxes. So this is an alternative. And that's my talking points.
Thank you. Thank you, Joe, for that. And I apologize to the body. I should have insisted that Joe have Sam's microphone because he was really talking to me. He wasn't really talking to you folks at all. Is there any other discussion of Article 7? There's a number of people. Sam, you can go to wherever you get to first and we'll work our way around. Thank you again for standing in your name.
Ian Montgomery. We are people that we live in Chester, and we have an Airbnb in our house, and we've already just been imposed a 3% tax. This is another 1% tax. That gives us an extra 4% that now we're paying. And I just think that if we as a community believe in providing affordable housing, then it should be a tax on all sales in the village, not just on people who eat here, restaurants, or go to Airbnbs or stay in inns or whatever. This is unfair.
Okay, thank you for that. Is there any other discussion on Article 7? Thank you for standing if you could.
I'm not going to stand because I have a problem with my back.
Thank you. Your name?
I'd like to have Joe.
Your name,
stand up
sir?
there.
I'm sorry, your name?
Philip Atwood,
Thank you.
Chester, Vermont. I'd like to have Joe stand up and define affordable housing.
Thank you for that. He's not going to be able to do that at this point in time. Are there any other discussions of Article number 7? It's not a debate. Sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bill Lindsay, Chester. I attended most of the selectmen's meetings on a regular basis, particularly when this issue of additional tax came up. I was very concerned. I'm glad to hear now that we've established a fund to put money aside to do different items. Housing is very important to this town. And by the way, as I look out here in the audience, I would say senior housing is a critical issue to the town of Chester. Now, what senior housing does is, number one, after it's built, it puts a certain amount of money on the grand list that relieves the tax liability to other taxpayers. I really believe that we need housing. It should be a use of a mixed housing, some senior and some housing that allows people to work in what some people refer to as menial jobs. Well, I think when we started out in life, we probably all had menial jobs. I believe, and I refer you to your town report, when you get home, look at page 95. It's a certain large amount of money that the town sits on, and it's full, and it's held by the trustee of public funds. Now, a number of years back, we were looking for business, and we developed a system where we brought in Putney Plaster at the time. They needed certain items to be done to bring this economic health to Chester. And what was done is that the town fathers at that time lent money to Putney Plaster to extend the sewer. As a matter of fact, that benefit is still here in Chester because you now have the food company there. If you look at the number of dollars, and I understand that for the funds that held by the trustee of public funds has specific assigned benefits that you could not use for certain purposes. However, the board can arrange with a builder to borrow money, use some of the trustee of public funds, and have that money paid back from the builder back into the fund. The biggest thing, and I do justice at the board at the time, the first thing I want to hear, let's raise the taxes. I think most of the things I've heard tonight, and I know we blame some of it on the school and some of it on the town. Overall, the average person cannot continue to afford the taxes without some economic help. Yeah, sitting on money, I addressed this probably 2 or 3 meetings, town meetings before about the money we were sitting on. And I was told, well, we need it for a rainy day. Well, folks, the rainy day is here. Utilize the money that we're sitting on, lend it, make some money on it, put it back, and develop some housing.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Is there further discussion on Article 7? Go ahead.
Hi, Scott Blair. I also own, one of my businesses is the Southern Pie Cafe. Many of you frequent our shop. We that. But what this tax will do is it's going to make it unappealing for new businesses to come into town. This right here, we've been listening all night to raising taxes. Taxes are coming up. We want to grow our grand list. I'm going to tell you guys right now, we could go down to Bellows Falls that doesn't have these taxes and that has restaurants that can compete with every single one of our restaurants here in town. They don't have this. What's going to tell somebody not to stop down at Bellows Falls if they're coming up 91 and go down to Bellows Falls and get food or dinner? What's going to tell us 10 minutes down the road, we can go down to the next town down? Because guess what? This is nickel and diming our citizens that are here in town. Also, the statements that have been made that says that this is going to help it so we can make it so tourists pay this, 75 to 80% of our business is locals. You guys here, the people at home listening on Zoom, the people that are going to be coming out to vote. Those are who frequent our shops. Some people think that the shops down on the green are all for tourists. I'll tell you what, they sure the hell aren't, because we have locals that sit there and frequent our shops, and that's how we exist.
Okay.
I'm going, one more second and I'll be able to say.
Thank you, Scott.
Obviously, you can tell I want you guys to vote no and to be opposed to this, but listen, think of our community first. Think of the growth of our town and think of the appeal for people to come here and start new businesses and stay here.
Thank you. Any further discussion? And again, please keep your comments brief due to the time. Yep, down front and then out back. And your name?
Hugh Quinn, Chester. I'll keep this very short. I think I'm totally in agreement that there's a housing issue in Chester. And as a community, we should be doing what we can to try to solve that problem to the best of our ability. And there's many things that are going to need to happen to solve that problem. One thing I'll say is, as a consumer, I've never made a decision about what restaurant I'm gonna go to or what hotel I'm gonna stay at, because I've said, this one has the option tax and this one doesn't. I've never made that decision. And furthermore, for my money, I would be happy to pay the 1% for my meal or my beer as a local if I thought that money was gonna go to helping Chester create more housing.
Further discussion of fact?
Hello, Steve Mancuso, Chester. What's being proposed tonight is an additional burden on Chester business that supplies employment for anybody that wants to work or live here.
Thank
This
you.
is just backwards. Thank you.
Any additional discussion of article? A few more people will go. Sam is coming. Sam is coming. Thank you.
Hi, Liz Cressy, Chester, Vermont. Just a question. What,
Oh, Liz, can you state your last name again?
Cressy,
Cressy, thank
Yeah.
you.
Quick question is, what else are you investigating? Or are you just going to the 1% tax?
That,
Looking at grants, are you looking at anything else?
I don't, as we saw in the presentation, the town managers solicited significant numbers of grants, but not related to housing. And do you want to go ahead, Miss Julie Hans from Chester?
Julie Hans, Chester. I can answer that by saying, so the Housing Commission and the Select Board have had many conversations about different options and different ways to help fund the Housing Commission. I mean, there were conversations about use of some of the economic development funds or interest. When we loan out economic development funds and they're paid back with interest, could that interest go to the housing fund? Short-term rental registration fees do currently go to the housing trust funds, about $25,000 a year. There have been conversations about just having a tax within the budget. There's been conversations about trustee of public funds money. There's been several conversations, and I would not guess that those conversations would end.
Good.
And grants, always grants. We're always looking for grants.
Thank you. Any additional brief comments about Article 7?
Yep, it looks like there's a couple. Damon Tyler, Chester again. Our select board knows, because I've said it at many of the meetings, I am not for this tax. I did sign up and am happy that I was chosen to be part of the Economic Advisory Board. I am very much pro business, and I think that I'm not going to debate whether there's a housing crisis here right now, but I'd like to. I think markets are changing. There's other solutions. I'm against this tax, and I think it's important for us to stand up for our small businesses.
Thank you. Further discussion? Two folks. Thank you, Sam. And again, thank you folks for being patient, standing and stating your name and the town you live in.
Randy Miles, Chester. I'm not a fan of taxes at where we are right now. I understand the concept and what we're trying to do, and it is important. But we're also giving a generous portion back to the state, and I don't think they're really doing the job to help us out as much as we would like. So that really is my opinion. I agree with the philosophy of it, but I don't like that extra money going back to the state just yet.
Thank you. Further discussion? Out behind and then over.
Hi, Caroline Morgan, Chester.
Did you catch that?
Caroline Morgan.
Caroline Morgan. Thank you, Caroline.
I think it's pretty universal that we know that housing is a problem in general in Vermont. It's very difficult to find any housing. It's very expensive. And in the end, the 1% that would be added to meals out and alcohol and rooms, those are not things you have to get. You do not have to go out to eat. You do not have to have beverages at a restaurant. If you do, and it's $100, you will pay $101. And people are standing up for business, say, you want to stand up for businesses in the area. There will not be anyone to work in those businesses if there isn't a place to live. And I know from anecdotally that there have been people who have accepted jobs at the school that are needed that have had to rescind it because they couldn't find a place to live. And it's not just that, it's other businesses, other employment. So.
Thank you. And right over here, next, thank you. Thanks again for your brief comments.
Linda Dyack, Chester.
Thank you, Linda.
As a business that files regular sales tax with the state of Vermont, I just would like you all to know the towns with local option taxes make up the bulk of our sales.
Thank you. Additional comments out in the way back in the bleachers?
Taking a different.
Your name,
point.
please?
Richard Pease Grant.
Thank you.
I'm taking a different tack on this tonight. I want to say how proud I am to be in this committee, in this room. This is America at its best, what we're doing right now. We're listening to other people who disagree with us, and we're going to try to work it out, and we're going to vote on it.
Thank you, Richard. Any further discussion on Article 7? Out in the back?
Matthew Gorski, Chester. I just want to say this options tax has been under discussion almost monthly for the last year by the select board, at which time they have sought public comment and solutions on a monthly basis. So asking questions that could have been answered over the last year in this kind of forum shows kind of a lack of interest in local government, except when it's time to vote to. And it takes a lot more commitment to, over the length of the year, work with the people we've elected to make decisions for us in order to come to a consensus on what's best for the town.
Thank you. Other discussion on Article 7? Seeing one or another person over here, thank you. Thanks again for being patient. And thank you for standing and stating your name.
Hi, Sophie Mickelson. I live in Chester. I just had a question. I think you might have, this might have been addressed. I think you might have missed it. Where exactly does the money go from the 1% tax? I know that 75% of it went somewhere, and where's the other one go?
If I can,
Again?
I'll try and summarize what I heard. Of the money that's collected, it all goes to the state. 75% of it comes back to the town. 25% stays with the state. And I have no idea what the state is going to use the money for. The 75% would be used, as was stated, to be used in the Housing Reserve Fund, which is used to support the production of housing and increase opportunities for families and individuals to access affordable homes in Chester. Okay, thank you. Any additional comments on Article 7?
Yeah, Jerry UC.
Who are you?
Jerry UC, Chester. I appreciate all the hard work that the Housing Commission does. We all know housing is an issue. At the same time, I understand the local businesses and their concerns about increased costs and tax and, potentially driving people away. It may seem small, but as some people have spoke up, year after year, there's a different tax in every corner that we're paying. And, we gotta say to ourselves, at what point does it stop? In addition, I didn't know, because this seems to be a kind of contentious article, if it's possible to vote on this by paper privately.
That is a possibility. If once the discussion is over, I can address that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any additional discussion of Article 7? No?
Well, without being.
Your name again, sir? Sorry.
Raymond Stearns. Without being facetious or naive, why do we have to pay 25% of that 1% to to the state?
I would assume, given the state, that they're writing the rules and we're just abiding by them. I don't know if anyone has additional information on that. Hearing.
Can't we write our own rules and just do it 75%?
That's what we're trying to do on the local level, but with the taxing, yes, so.
Yeah, it's all, local options tax is all governed, Chester, Julie, local options tax is all governed by, state statute. And, it used to be that in order to do local options tax, you had to actually do a charter change. That changed in the legislature last year. So now you can vote it.
Good. Thank you for that clarification. Any additional discussion of Article 7 in the back? Thank you again for addressing your question to the moderator, who will try and pass it off to someone who knows. Thank you. And you are?
Ruth Zaitza, Chester. I would like to just address my comment to the gentleman who said that he didn't mind paying extra tax, that if he was going to go out to eat, it would be fine. But for most of us who live here, myself, I can only speak for, but I bet you there are others who pay attention to these kinds of things, and it would be difficult to say that it doesn't matter.
Thank you. Is there any additional discussion? Hold on for just a second, because you've already spoke to the, is there anyone who has not spoken on the article who would like to speak to it? Yep. Hold on one second, just a second. Someone else has a microphone. I'll get to you in just a moment.
Connor Eklund, Chester.
Yes.
On part.
Connor Eklund?
Eklund, yeah.
Thank you, Connor.
I own Stone Hearth and Eatery down the other end of town. I would like to say that I am not for this tax, and I would support everything that Scott has opinion wise against it, as long as Jerry you see here as well.
Thank you.
Along with that.
Is there any other discussion from registered voters of Chester? You've already spoken, Randy. Is there anyone from Chester who has not yet spoken on it? In the back, are you a registered voter of Chester? No, I'm sorry. Okay. Is it? I'm going to try and stay within the registered voters given the hour. And yes, I'm going to try and stay with that. Okay, this is how they're, again, if you're down front here for someone who has not spoken to the article, if you're speaking for a second time, we're going to ask that you be incredibly brief. And thank you for standing and telling us who you are.
Beverly Boat from Meadow Road and in Chester. And I'm just wondering if it's in order to call the question.
Given that there are people with, you could do that if we can hit the other people real quick.
Oh, don't hit them, just let them have.
Yes, so thank you for that. Thank you for that. I would not do that. Thank you. So we're going to take the last two comments very quickly.
Quick comment, Randy Miles again, Chester. The thing for me is that I'm a single parent in a household, and it's very tight. And if you haven't noticed your electric bill or your payroll tax, there's also percentages on there that add up. So all these things do make a difference to us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very quickly.
Nice and quickly. Once again, we're all locals, we're all community here, but I'm going to tell you guys, I know everybody has heard the price food products. Keep that in mind when you look for this, because that 1% tax does make a difference. And I want to say, we do actually have two restaurant owners that can't speak tonight because they're not allowed to, but they should. And they're, for my opinion, they do have an opinion on this because they do pay taxpayers money too. Just my opinion.
Thank you for speaking. Thank you. All right. Is there any additional discussion on Article 7? Thank you again for that. So we're going to vote in just a moment on excuse me, let me back up for just a second. There was a request made for a paper ballot, okay? If that request is made by 7 community members, then we will go to paper ballot, and I will explain that process at this point in time. Okay. Seeing that there are more than 7 hands raised, let me explain this process. Since a paper ballot has been requested, here's how it's going to go. In just a few moments, you can see that people are moving furniture because there are going to be 2 lines forming. The A through L's, if your last name starts with the letters A through L, you're going to go into this line here. They will give you a piece of paper. You can vote yay or nay, yes or no on Article 7, which I'll read again in just a moment. If your last name starts with the letters M through Z, you're going to go over there and then pick up the same piece of paper. There'll be different colors, but they all have either yes or no on them. You can then go into one of these 4 booths here. You can mark your ballot either yes or no, and then deposit it in the box here. You don't need to rush to get into line, but we will move through it in a timely manner. Once the ballots are in there, then the town clerk will go through the process of counting the ballots. Once that is done, then we will come back together. We will announce the tally and whether the article passed or not. Is there any questions about how this process is going to work? Okay, hearing no questions. Article 7 will be voted, excuse me, Article 7. Shall the voters establish a 1% local options tax on the sale of rooms, meals, and consumed alcohol for a period of 10 years?
Yeah.
Revenue from the local options tax will be used to fund the Housing Reserve Fund, which is used to support the production of housing and increase opportunities for families and individuals to access affordable homes in Chester. A paper ballot was requested. At this point in time, if you are in favor of it, A through L, you're in this line here. M through Z, you're in this line here. Mark your ballot in one of those places. Deposit your ballot in the ballot box. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, again for taking your seats.